she yelled from the Jeep window. "Move your junk, this road belongs to the HOA." Her voice cut through the quiet Texas afternoon like a siren. I froze mid-step, holding a shovel, staring at the two strangers in matching green polos. They had a fake badge stickered to the side of their Jeep. HOA security enforcement. Grandpa stood on the porch, his weathered hands resting on his cane, eyes narrowing with the kind of calm that scared you more than yelling ever could. "This is private property," I said, stepping closer. The driver smirked. "Not anymore. HOA has claimed this road. You'll need to pay access fees or move your vehicles." I could feel the heat rising in my neck. Grandpa's voice came slow and steady. "Son, go ahead and turn that camera on." The woman in the passenger seat got out, holding a clipboard. "Sir, we've issued you 3 notices already. If you don't comply, we'll have your property towed." And the sheriff notified for trespassing. She waved a fake-looking paper in Grandpa's face. He didn't even blink. "Trespassing?" he repeated, his lips curling. "Ma'am, I built this road before you were even born." The wind picked up, dust swirling around their shiny Jeep tires. The man took a few steps forward, trying to look tough. "We don't want trouble, old man. Just following orders." Grandpa leaned closer, his voice dropping low. "Orders from who? HOA doesn't exist out here. You're a mile past city limits." They exchanged a look, like they realized they'd messed up, but couldn't back down now. "We'll call the cops," the woman threatened. Grandpa smiled faintly, the way a man does when he already knows what's coming. "Go ahead," he said, "but you might want to move your Jeep before that happens." She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and got back in the Jeep. The tires spun, kicking up dirt. Grandpa slowly turned and walked toward the barn, muttering, "They want to play authority. Fine. Let's give them a real welcome." I didn't understand what he meant until I saw him drag out the rusty old metal box from under the bench, the one labeled floodgate controls. He flipped a switch, and far down the road, I heard the heavy groan of metal chains. "What are you doing, Grandpa?" I asked, heart thumping. He just looked at me and said quietly, "Teaching them how private property works." The next sound I heard was the screech of brakes and then the Jeep's front end sinking, the road giving way under them into a shallow, muddy trench we used for flood runoff. The woman screamed, the man shouted, and Grandpa just stood there watching, calm as ever. "They wanted to enforce fake laws on real land," he murmured. Guess the land enforced back. The Jeep's tires spun uselessly, mud splashing. The fake badge sticker peeled halfway off the door, hanging by a corner. Grandpa turned toward me and said, "Now call the real sheriff, boy. Let's see who's trespassing now." The sirens echoed down the dirt road 20 minutes later, dust swirling in the golden sunset. The fake HOA Jeep was still half buried in mud, its front bumper scraping against the trench edge. The woman kept pacing beside it, yelling into her phone. "They trapped us. They rigged the road." Grandpa stood by the fence post, arms crossed, quiet as a stone. When the sheriff's truck pulled up, I felt a rush of relief until I saw her face. It was Karen Lewis, the self-proclaimed community director who'd been trying for months to bully us into joining her fake draw. She climbed out of the truck like she owned the place, her blonde hair tied back tight, her sunglasses flashing with that smug shine that made you want to look away. Well, Mr. Brooks," she said, pretending to smile. "You've gone too far this time. Damaging property, detaining civilians. Do you realize how serious this is?" Grandpa didn't even turn his head. "Civilians," he said. "Those two were trespassing. And that Jeep has fake HOA decals. You might want to check your files before throwing words around." Karen strutted closer, heels crunching on gravel. "You don't decide what's private or public, sir. This entire stretch of road is part of the HOA's jurisdiction. You signed the community agreement when you moved in." She waved a paper like it was a weapon. Grandpa chuckled. "That's funny," he said. "Because I bought this land in 1978, 30 years before your cookie-cutter houses even existed." Her face twitched. For a moment, the fake confidence cracked. "That's not possible," she said quickly. "The county records." Grandpa pulled a folded paper from his jacket pocket and handed it to her. "You mean these records?" She froze. The sheriff's deputy, who had been quietly standing behind her, leaned over to look. The paper had the original deed, signed and sealed by the county clerk. Karen's voice faltered. Where did you get that?" "From my lawyer," Grandpa said. "The same one who used to work for the state attorney's office. You might know him. He shut down 3 fake HOA scams just last year." Karen's lips parted, but no sound came out. The two HOA enforcers in the Jeep looked like they wanted to melt into the mud. "You can't prove that," she stammered. Grandpa tilted his head slightly. "Oh, I think the dash cam will handle that part. It's been recording since you showed up." She went pale. The deputy stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "is it true you authorized these individuals to enter this property?" Karen's voice shook. "They were doing inspections. It's standard procedure." The deputy frowned. "There's no registered HOA with jurisdiction here. This is outside city zoning. You might want to stop talking." Karen's eyes darted around like she was trapped. "This isn't over," she snapped. "You people think you can just—" Before she could finish, Grandpa said softly, "It's already over. Karen." He turned toward the barn again, calm, quiet. The sound of the sheriff's radio crackled behind him, and I saw the deputy handcuff the man who drove the Jeep. The woman started crying. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Grandpa looked at me and said, "When people forget what's real and what's fake, you don't argue, you remind them." That line hit me deep. I could tell something bigger was coming, because Grandpa had that look again, the one that meant he wasn't done yet. By the next morning, the whole neighborhood knew. Karen's fake. HOA cops had been towed out at dawn under the sheriff's supervision, their Jeep dripping mud and shame. Word spread fast. People who'd once been scared of Karen were whispering behind fences now, sharing screenshots and clips of Grandpa's dash cam footage that had somehow already gone viral on local Facebook groups. I was sipping coffee on the porch when Grandpa came out, carrying a folder thicker than a phone book. "What's that?" I asked. He laid it on the table with a thump. "Everything she's done. Fake fines, false letters, all signed under that phony HOA seal." He flipped one open. It read, "Notice of violation, unauthorized fence paint color." Grandpa smirked. "She even fined the Andersons for planting sunflowers." Before I could respond, a silver SUV pulled into our drive. It wasn't the sheriff this time. It was a clean-cut man in a gray suit with a county seal on his badge. "Morning, sir," he said politely. "Name's Robert Kent, county investigator. We've been receiving multiple reports about a fraudulent homeowners association operating in this area. Karen must have thought she could talk her way out, because just then she showed up too, storming across the road in a bright red jacket, shouting, 'You can't just show up on private property without notice.'" Robert raised an eyebrow. "Private property? Interesting choice of words. Because according to the county map, you've been charging residents for maintenance on land you don't own." He looked at Grandpa. "Mind if I take a look around?" Grandpa nodded. "Be my guest." Karen's face turned red. "You're making a mistake. These people are squatters. They've been using HOA roads without—" Robert cut her off. "Ma'am, please stop. We have your signatures on letters demanding money, plus video evidence of your agents impersonating law enforcement. That's a felony." She froze. For the first time since this all began, she looked scared. I didn't mean to impersonate anyone," she stuttered. "It was just a community watch thing." Robert looked unimpressed. "With badges? And uniforms? And a Jeep labeled HOA enforcement unit? That's a little more than community watch, don't you think?" Karen tried to speak again, but Grandpa opened the folder and slid a paper across the table toward the investigator. "You might want to check this too," he said. Robert took one glance and nodded. "County stamp, original deed, well documented." Then Grandpa leaned back, eyes calm but sharp. "You know what's funny?" he said quietly. "She's been sending out all these fake notices, never realizing the person she's threatening is a retired federal land surveyor. Every inch of this road was built under my authorization." Karen's face went pale like she'd just seen a ghost. "You what?" she whispered. Grandpa smiled faintly. "That's right. I designed half the roads in this county. So when someone lies about land ownership to me, I take it personal." The silence that followed was heavier than words. Karen took a shaky step back as Robert turned to his deputy and said, "Get her statement, and make sure those documents go to the DA's office." Grandpa stood, hands in his pockets, and said softly, "She thought she could fake authority, but real authority doesn't need to shout." And in that moment I realized this wasn't just about land. It was about legacy. That night the ranch felt different. Calm, but with that quiet before a storm kind of calm. The stars hung low and clear over the fields. and Grandpa sat by the porch light, his hat tilted down, a faint glow from his old radio flickering beside him. I sat next to him, trying to read his mood. He hadn't said a word since the investigators left. Then headlights appeared again at the end of the dusty road. A black pickup truck this time, no logos, no badges. It rolled to a stop near the gate, engine idling low. Grandpa didn't move. He just whispered, "They always come back when the lights go out." Two men stepped out wearing dark jackets and gloves. I felt my stomach tighten. "Grandpa, that's not the sheriff, is it?" He didn't answer. He just slowly reached down beside the porch and pressed a small button on a metal box mounted to the post. Somewhere down the fence line, I heard a faint hum. The men crept closer, flashlights swinging. "Anyone home?" One of them called out. "We're here about the property dispute." But their tone gave it away, too casual, too rehearsed. Grandpa leaned forward, voice calm but cold. "Funny, county office closes at 5. They froze. Then one of them hissed, "You need to hand over those documents, old man. You don't know who you're dealing with." That's when the faint hum turned into a snap. The floodlights along the fence exploded to life, washing the road in white light. Both men flinched, blinded, and in that second Grandpa stood up. He was still calm, just taller somehow, like the night itself was standing with him. "You picked the wrong ranch," he said quietly, "and the wrong man." They tried to back away, but the gate had already locked behind them. The same gate Grandpa had reinforced last year with a steel latch. One I thought was just for coyotes. I heard the hum again, then a loud click. The cameras mounted on the porch started recording. The men froze, realizing everything they did was now being documented. Grandpa pointed toward the mailbox where a red light blinked. "Livestream," he said. "To the sheriff's office." The men cursed under their breath. One raised his hands, but the other tried to bolt for the truck. The gate didn't budge. He slammed his shoulder against it, panic setting in. Grandpa took one slow step forward. "I told you once," he said, his voice like gravel. "This is private land. You walk in lying, you walk out on record." I'll never forget the sound that came next, the roar of real police sirens closing in from both sides of the road. The men froze again, realizing they'd walked right into a setup. Grandpa looked at me, his face half lit in the glare. "Always remember," he said softly, "truth doesn't shout, it traps." As the sheriff's cars surrounded the gate, I felt something shift inside me. The fear, the anger, all of it melted into pride. Grandpa hadn't just protected our land. He'd protected the truth. Karen arrived moments later in a panic, yelling that it was all a misunderstanding. But when the sheriff held up his phone playing the live footage of her men threatening Grandpa, her voice cracked into silence. Grandpa turned toward her, his tone calm as ever. "You tried to send fake cops twice," he said. "Now you're facing the real ones." The sheriff's deputy read her rights while she kept shaking her head, mumbling that it wasn't supposed to go this way. Grandpa just looked up at the stars again, whispering, "It never does, when the truth catches up." The next morning, sunlight broke through the fog, painting the ranch in soft gold. The chaos was gone, no sirens, no shouting, just the smell of dew and the hum of peace that hadn't been there in weeks. Grandpa was already out by the gate, fixing the broken latch like nothing ever happened. The same gate where Karen had screamed the night before, begging to be let go while the sheriff cuffed her men and loaded them into the patrol cars. I walked over with 2 mugs of coffee and handed him one. "You really think it's over?" I asked quietly. He smiled faintly, never looking up from the hinge. "For her, maybe. For us, it's just the beginning of getting our peace back." By noon, the county trucks had arrived, removing every fake HOA sign that had been nailed across our road. The investigator, Robert Kent, stopped by again, shaking Grandpa's hand. "We've confirmed everything," he said. "She forged permits, faked board minutes, even charged residents thousands for HOA maintenance fees. She'll be facing multiple felony counts." Grandpa nodded slowly. "Good, maybe now people around here can live without fear of someone pretending to own what they built." Robert smiled. "You've got quite a legacy here, sir." Grandpa just shrugged. "Legacy's only worth something if it protects the next guy." After he left, I stood by the fence watching the empty stretch of road where it all started. The mud trench had already dried, the tire marks fading into the dust. "You really planned all that?" I asked. Grandpa gave a small chuckle. "Planned? No, just learn to be ready. When you've seen enough folks try to take what's yours, You start keeping the receipts. That night, the local news aired the story. The headline flashed across the screen. Fake HOA busted after attempted land takeover, caught on rancher security footage. The anchor's voice was calm, but the clip said it all. Karen shouting about community authority, the fake Jeep sinking in mud, the men caught under floodlights, and Grandpa standing there like the last honest man on the frontier. The video spread everywhere within hours. People from other towns started showing up just to shake Grandpa's hand. Some even brought letters thanking him for standing up to abuse of power, but Grandpa never cared for fame. He just kept saying the same thing whenever someone asked how he stayed calm. He'd smile that small, tired smile and say, "Because land doesn't lie. You can fake papers, uniforms, and laws, but the dirt always remembers who's walked it honest." Later that evening, as the sky turned orange and the wind brushed through the grass, Grandpa looked out toward the road one last time. "You know," he said softly, "I didn't rig that trench to trap anyone. I built it years ago to keep the rain from washing away our land. Guess it still does its job." I laughed quietly. "So in a way, the land saved itself." He nodded, his eyes reflecting the sunset. "Exactly. You protect what's yours. Not with anger, but with proof. With patience and with pride." And as the day faded, I realized the truth of it. This wasn't just a story about a fake HOA. It was about a man who refused to let lies rewrite the truth he'd spent a lifetime building. Viral line. They drove in pretending to own the road, but the road already knew who it belonged to. The end.